Hello, this is Russ Tanner from Global Skywatch, and it is January 4th, 2016, and this is Global Skywatch Radio. This is not really a radio show. This is a meeting. This is a meeting of those who are concerned about what is going on in the skies and about other issues related to geoengineering, or chemtrails as they're more commonly called. Also, to know and understand about the other issues that are going on in our world today. We're going to be talking about what you want to talk about. We're going to start this show off with open conversation, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that my research has turned up. I have done a lot of research on different subjects over the last 30 years of my awakening and coming to know and understand the world and how the world really works. And never in my life have I dreamed that I would be doing a radio show. We have all the phone lines wide open. So if you want to talk, just hold on a second and I'll call out so that you can join us. I do want to catch up with a few things that have been going on, and I want to give a little lead-in information for you so that you can tune into our show if you haven't been here or if you're watching this on our YouTube channel. YouTube channel is Global Skywatch. If you want to call in, you can get the phone numbers at globalskywatch.com/live, L-I-V-E. We also archive all the programs there. Just click the Global Skywatch radio link at the top. Now, it's been a long time, or been a little while anyway, since we've done a show. There are a lot of things going on in the world today. And as you might know if you've tuned in before, we cover a lot of the deeper aspects of geoengineering. For those of you who are new to this subject, the globalskywatch.com website is dedicated to exposing geoengineering, or chemtrails, which are the trails that you see coming out of the jets in the sky. I never dreamed I would be doing a radio program like this, but I feel like my conscience would not be satisfied. I would not be able to live myself if I didn't, because of my background and my interest in the science behind jets and aviation, in my interest in the other scientific related subjects, my research I have done about government and industrial cover-ups in the past, combined with the fact that I have a very sensitive sense of taste and smell, that I have to do this. And I do this not because I want to, but because I have to, because we are living in a time when we're experiencing the largest crime against humanity in recorded history. And that is the release of known toxins into the atmosphere. I smell them. I remember the day it started in 2005. I remember the day that they began spraying our town. They began leaving trails across the sky. For those of you who are younger and you don't remember, you can't remember, you weren't around 20 or 30 years ago and you didn't see that there were no such things as trails in the sky, except once in a while, because this actually has been going on for quite a while. You can look back at clip art. I've done this in the last few weeks and looked at clip art from the 90s. And I actually found maybe 1 out of 10 pictures has chemtrails in them. Today, you can't look at a picture of the sky hardly anywhere without seeing chemtrail artifacts in the sky. There are a number of things that really concern me about this, but what really got me emotionally from day one was the fact that I smell and taste it, and I have a hyperinflammatory reaction. Dr. Russell Blaylock explains to us. If you don't know who Dr. Russell Blaylock is, go to the Global Skywatch website, which you can see in the video stream right now, and click over here on our Health and Detox link. And down here, you will see information about health, and one of them relates to aluminum. Go to the aluminum section, and we have an article here, a couple different articles that talk that are written by or have excerpts from Dr. Russell Blaylock, and he talks about many of the health effects which people are seeing and experiencing today. I have a hyperinflammatory reaction to it. I had water tested in a lab here in Maine, and we had 600 micrograms per liter of aluminum in the rainwater, which is 6 times higher than the EPA secondary MCL, which is what they recommend the maximum level be in drinking water. Our rainwater was 6 times higher. And this makes sense because patents show aluminum being used to being sprayed in the atmosphere for the purposes of geoengineering, that is blocking the sun or reducing the Earth's albedo, which is the reflectivity, or increasing albedo, increase the reflectivity of the sunlight to reduce global warming. That is the claim. Yet, they don't claim that they're involved in this process yet. Yet, there are many people who smell and taste these substances as they descend to the ground. I am one of them. It is absolutely unquestionable, and for the last 10 years, I have been inundated with the taste of metal in the air, wave after wave, as the plumes are released from the jets. If they're flying at different altitudes, I can pretty much predict about how long it will take for them to reach the ground. This is not a drill. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the revelation of industrial corruption that has gone so far that it almost becomes unbelievable. And as much as I understand, it's hard for those who are new to this to believe. To those of us who smell and taste it, to those of us who are old enough to remember what the sky looked like before this crime against humanity began, it is very, very real. They are now putting it in textbooks. I saw a French textbook recently that had pictures of children pointing up to the sky, and they call them condensation trails, which is a lie. It's an absolute lie. There's textbooks all over the United States being produced that also claim that they're condensation trails. They're re-educating the children, just like they taught you to believe one scientific lie after another. And then, of course, in 2000, they came out with some study that's supposed to show that's related to the production of jet contrails to convince people. And that's all they do. They come out with fake studies, and then all the disinformants who are working for the military contractors go on Facebook, create blogs, and they keep referring to that scientific study because it eases the consciences of those who don't want to think about this. And that is where the real problem lies, is that people are so afraid to deal with this. And this is what makes this such a great irony. The irony is that the term conspiracy theorist was created originally, and it has been found in declassified CIA documents to teach the public, to deter those who were finding discrepancies in the Warren Commission report about the murder of John F. Kennedy. And they wanted to tag them as conspiracy theorists in order to discredit those people. It's a psychological operation that creates social pressure against people who want to expose government/industrialist corruption. That was the purpose of it. And the big irony about this is that they always associate the term paranoid or fear with people who recognize these large-scale conspiracies, and they call them paranoid conspiracy theorists. Really, the opposite is true. The people who are afraid are those who are not willing to look at the data. There is no refuting the fact, the correlations that were exposed 10 years ago between the spray events and the amount of these exotic metals in rainwater is solid, correlated evidence that this is happening. And we have seen it over and over again. Now we have hordes of people who can smell and taste this, who are having respiratory infection, and now lung cancer is number 3 despite smoking being at an all-time low. Why is that? Because when you're inhaling toxic metals that embed themselves into your lung tissue because they're so small, They're so toxic because they have such a large surface area that they can induce cancer growth. Not only that, but some of the big diseases that we're seeing come from the spraying come from the fact that aluminum blocks your capillaries. It can get into your very, very small capillaries, block them, and then you can have a stroke or an aneurysm. Barium, which is one of the components we keep finding in rainwater, and another one used in geoengineering and in weather control because it sequesters water. Barium salts sequester moisture. They can be used as condensation nuclei in the formation or the prevention of rain droplets. Barium sequesters potassium from the body, and when your potassium levels get low enough, you'll have heart fibrillations and eventually a heart attack, which is what happened to me in 2011. If you want to read my story, go to globalskywatch.com. I'm going to bring you, look at the video feed right now, to the home page, and my chemtrails story and observations link is right down here. Click on it, and it will bring you to the page. And I have listed down here my chemtrail heart attack. And that documents not only my heart attack that I had as a cause, caused from the spraying, and I know it was caused from the spraying for multiple reasons, but also the only problem they found with me is very, very low potassium levels. Barium is used to artificially induce heart attacks in animal testing because it lowers potassium levels so aggressively that it will induce heart attacks. Now, there are many, many things I can talk about, but one thing I'd like to focus on tonight, I'm going to introduce this subject to you. We can talk about it, but I want to talk about getting right to the root of the problem, because I believe the root of the problem lies in the fact that people are too afraid to make a phone call, too afraid to look at the information, too afraid to look at the evidence, too afraid to think that something so heinous could actually be happening in today's world. And feedback I would love from you, and I'm going to give you my opinions too, is this. How do we break through to people? How do we get people to make those phone calls? Because I believe that if we can contact local officials and start putting the social pressure on them, one phone call is worth 100. 100 phone calls is worth 10,000 because they know every phone call they get represents a large number of people who aren't calling. But you can be guaranteed of this. If you don't call them and put pressure on them and let them know that you're upset about what's going on and you're not going to accept the fake, false, lying explanation that these are condensation trails, you're not going to accept that. And people like me who can smell them, or people who have done testing and found huge amounts of exotic toxic metals in the rainwater for no good reason, we want our air quality officials to be held accountable. We want them to wake up. And we first want to see if they're willing to work with us. Are you willing not to tell us a lie? Are you willing to help us with our testing? Are you willing to be concerned about this? What kind of a human being are you? That's the first thing. But the thing is that people are afraid to make that phone call. And I have suggestions on how we can form groups, and we can have people make group phone calls. Get together with 2, 3, or 4 people, conference call. Have one person do the speaking, and everybody call in and talk on the same line to the same person. Talk professionally, calmly, present your evidence. And these people, and when they tell you, well, we have no authority, you'll have to call the FDA, say what your job is for the Bureau of Air Quality for our state, or whatever they are called in your state. In the state of Maine, they're called the Bureau of Air Quality. We don't expect that you're going to stop this. But we do expect, because your job is to protect the public, that is in your bylaws, that is in your mission statement, that you will become aware of this and you will warn the public so they can protect themselves. To neglect to do that is to be guilty of the crime itself. If you're going to be willfully blind, this is a legal term. When you are in a public position and you turn a blind eye, and it's called willful blindness, if I'm remembering correctly. They're being willfully blind of something that they've been woken up to because they don't want to take responsibility for doing anything. They don't want to increase their workload, or maybe they've been put there by appointment to defend the lie that these are contrails. Enough of me talking. There's much I could talk about, and please forgive me. I'm completely exhausted tonight, hardly able to function, and that's completely because of the spraying. I rarely get a good night's sleep, but I do what I can with the supplements that I take, and I am able to remain functional through diet and supplementation, which we can get into as well if you want. But my sleep issues, as well as many others, I believe, are caused by the cytotoxic effects of mercury and the other exotic metals that are in chemtrails. If you'd like to call in, I see some people in the console. Please go get the phone number from globalskywatch.com/live, or write down this phone number, 605-562-3140. And when you call in, you'll have to type a code in to get access to this particular show. And the code you want to type in is 156230. So the phone number again is 605-562-3140, and the access code is 156230. Now, before I go on, I could talk all night about this. I would like, first of all, to take any information that people are putting in the chat room, or people to go ahead and just speak up who are called in, and let's chat about all of this. I see that someone in the chat is saying that they're worried about the radiation from Fukushima mixing in the high atmosphere and irradiating the nano-alumina particles and making it more lethal. Absolutely. These particles descend. And one thing I want to say is that when these particles are released, there's a very counterintuitive process that takes place. People think that when little fine particles are released into the atmosphere that they're not going to descend quickly. There's this myth that they're going to take weeks or months to descend. That is not true. When these jets were first flying at very low altitudes, I don't know, a few thousand feet, I mean, if you had binoculars, you would have been able to read the call letters on these jets, these big 747s and the other large jets that were releasing these things over Jamestown, New York, which is where I lived at the time. These particulates would reach ground level in 20 to 40 minutes. Now, people have to understand that the descent rate, the resistance to the descent of a particulate, is based on a ratio between its volume, meaning how big, how much space does it actually occupy. Because if it's larger and less dense, that means it's lighter but larger, it's going to have more air resistance and it's going to descend more slowly. It's based on, the rate of descent is based on a ratio, not size alone, but size versus, or on its density. What is the volume versus its mass? What is the actual density of the particulate? So let's say you have a feather and you drop a feather. It doesn't have a lot of mass. Okay, they would say it's not a dense particle. Let's call it a particle. But it has a large cross section, so it has a lot of skin resistance to the flow of air past it. It has a lot of resistance, so it's going to descend slowly. But if you have a bench top vise, you know those a vise is made of solid metal, and you drop that in the air, that's going to hit the ground a lot more quickly. Now, it might be the same size as the feather, but it's much more dense. It has more mass per volume. In other words, it might have the same or nearly the same amount of resistance or surface area to resist its fall. But the problem is it has a lot more weight because there's more mass there. So it's a ratio. So you can have two objects the same size. One will fall quickly and one will fall more slowly. Now, the rate of descent if you have a particulate that has a very, very small cross-section, very, very small size, but it has a lot of mass per size. It's very dense. It's going to fall quickly. It doesn't matter if it's an anvil, a vise, a car, or a nanoparticulate. Now, nanoparticulates, again, you've got to think in terms of ratio. The cross-section that's in touch with the air is extremely small in ratio to its mass. Therefore, it falls quickly. I understand this is counterintuitive, but it makes complete sense when you look at it from a scientific point of view. And this matches perfectly with my observations, because these things that were initially dropped from these large, low-flying jets, they were low-flying jets leaving these huge plumes. It took 20 to 40 minutes for this stuff to reach ground level. And when it reaches ground level, it will go from normal air without any odors, without any scents, unless there were flowers or something nearby, but just normal air, to full intensity, usually in no more than 2 minutes, to the point where my sinuses were burning, my headache was beginning to kick in, my joints and muscles were hurting, and I was having all kinds of pain from this. This is what I suffered from. And this is why I do this radio program. And I don't care if there's 5 people listening or 5 million people listening. This is my experience. And if I didn't get out and tell people about this, then I would be being irresponsible. Now that I've said that, there's so many things I could go on to. Let me just talk about a couple other subjects you can bring up real quick if you want to. We have a large Facebook group that is approaching 50,000 people. Go on Facebook and search for the group called Chemtrails Global Skywatch. We put the word chemtrails in front because that's the most common term people search for, and that helps people to locate us. When you find a Facebook group called Chemtrails Global Skywatch that has nearly 50,000, as of right now, January 4th to 2016, we have about 48,000 people in the group. That's our group. Please join us. There are a lot of great people there who have information to share. In that group, we have people providing all kinds of good information, all kinds of health information, posting pictures of what they're seeing in their particular area. We also have a forum on Global Skywatch that we aim to have any city that you want. We will provide a forum dedicated to your city, a gallery dedicated to your city, so that you can use that forum to organize people in your area. Free of charge, free of Facebook, our service to you to help you organize people in your area and expose this to people. Now, there are many subjects we could talk about, but first let me invite anybody who is in the chat room. The phone lines are wide open. Anyone who'd like to speak with us right now.
Yeah, Russ, it's Steve Chamberlain from Alaska.
Steve, long time no hear. How are you doing, Steve?
Good, Russ. Yeah, the last time we talked was on your last show, I think, back in November maybe, or September.
Yes, indeed.
That's about the time I put out my YouTube video.
Yes, excellent, Steve. Excellent, yes. And in fact, I want to show people right now what you've done up there. Tell me what's going on. Catch me up. What's been happening?
Well, they can see it if they go to your website, go to Global Skywatch, and go to Chemtrail Stories. Mine's in there. I think it's the name of my video is Pizza Guy Fights to Expose Climate Engineering, or Geoengineering.
Yep, here it is, Steve.
And you can find it on YouTube if you just punch that in. Pizza Guy Fights to Expose Climate Engineering. You'll find it. It's about 14 minutes of what I'm doing here in Alaska to wake up the community I'm in. It's only about 5,000 or 6,000 people right here in my town, but I've been saturating them with information for 2 years, and I'm not going to stop until the spraying stops. So,
yeah, you're doing a great job.
I'm glad to hear you were coming back on the air, and I really appreciate you. You're one of the people that woke me up. My official awakening was because of you and your website. So, thank you, Russ.
Thank you. Thank you. And give people, if you have a second, tell people exactly what you do, because I want people to understand that no matter where you are and what you do from day to day, you can make an amazing difference. What do you do,
exactly.
Steve?
You just have to find out what works best in your life, whatever your job is, or if you can't do it on your job, there's a way. There's always a way you can get to reach people. And luckily, I own a pizza shop, so I can put the website on every pizza box, and I have for close to 2 years now. Every pizza box gets the website or a flyer or a patent for geoengineering, and these people get it in their house every day. Every time they order a pizza, they get one. So that's one way I found to do it. It's easy, it's cheap, and it reaches people, and it pounds it into them, because a lot of these people are regular customers of mine. Of course, they get it. They get these things constantly every week when they order a pizza. Eventually, they're going to go to the website, right? Eventually, they're going to realize that something is terribly, terribly wrong, and they're going to want to know what's really going on. So, but I'm never going to give up. That's another thing. You know, once I was in denial for 6 years. I talk about this in my video. From 2008 until 2013, I didn't look up, and I'd seen it, and it scared the hell out of me. So I decided I wasn't going to investigate. It was too scary, and I didn't even look into it. But eventually I had to. The weather here in Alaska was, you know, we don't have winter anymore. 3 years in a row, we've got hardly any snow, and right now it's 40 degrees and drizzling. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah,
Thought I'd just jump in.
Sure.
From Georgia here, we're actually colder down here in Georgia than you are in Alaska. Tonight it's supposed to hit a low of something like, you know, the high 20s, mid 20s here.
Yeah, we're at 40 degrees right now and drizzle, and it's been like that for 10 days now. So they're definitely manipulating the jet stream, and this is the third year in a row that I've been totally aware of it, and I can clearly see that they're doing it. So we haven't seen the sun in at least 10 days, maybe 2 weeks now. And I was thinking of starting a schedule or starting a calendar and marking what days we actually get to see the sun. They're very few and far between, and when we do see the sun, it's usually for a short period of time. If a hole opens up in the cover, you'll see a big, thick trail, and within 20 minutes, it's closed up again. And this is the type of thing that's happening everywhere. Everyone that I talk to, that I blog with, that I talk to online, even on the phone, I now have people that are friends of mine all across the country that I talk to on the phone that I've never met. It's like my own little support group. And they're all saying the same thing, that we're not seeing the sky anymore. We're not seeing the sun anymore, just for weeks on end.
Now, Steve, do you remember before all this happened? I mean, before all this started, what did the sky look like?
Beautiful. It was blue. In the sky, the clouds were puffy and white, and you could see them building, and now it's just a smear. It's just a smear of different colors. There's no definition in the clouds.
Absolutely.
Everybody sees it, Russ. I mean, immediately when I first saw trails in the sky in 2008, the first time I'd ever seen it, it was bad. I was in South Carolina. They were spraying the sky, just crisscrossing and going everywhere, horizon to horizon, and it scared the hell out of me. I freaked out, and I was screaming at my family, like, what the hell's going on in the sky? And like I said, it scared me so much that for 6 years I didn't see it. So, but everybody knows the minute they saw this, at some point they knew something was terribly wrong. It's how powerful this is. Our brains don't want to let us accept it, but we have to. We have to.
Yeah.
We have to stop this.
We absolutely do have to. And now when people come in and they get a pizza from your shop, I mean, you've sent me a kit, and I appreciate it so much. You have it written on your pizza boxes. You've got it on. I've got your video up right now. I'm showing people clips from it on the video stream.
Cool.
Yeah, and you've got it written on your chalkboard there where people in the waiting area, I think.
Yeah, right up front in the dining area. Behind the cash register is a chalkboard that I change regularly, but it always has your website on it and some others, and some YouTube links to Harp Report, things like that. So yeah, it's a constant barrage for these people in this town here in Nikiski. It's an oil and gas town, so we do get a lot of people from out of state, from Louisiana, Texas, and down there that come up here and do this work, and they take what they learn here at my restaurant back down south with them, tell their friends and family. At least I hope they are. That's all I could hope, you know. I wish I could do more. You know, I'm here in this little town at the end of the road, and I've just gave these people a constant barrage of. They're all aware now. It's just they're still just sitting on their hands, and you know.
Well, this is the thing. You know, people I think have not learned. I mean, back years and years and years ago, people had a sense of responsibility for their country. They knew they had to be actively involved. This was a long time ago. They knew that it was their responsibility. Today, there's this disassociation. But don't you think it is our responsibility? Who's going to do this if we don't?
Yeah, but everywhere we look, like NFL, anywhere you go, commercials on TV, they're telling us to love our Air Force and love our military and respect, and it's just a constant barrage of this. And the military complex, the industrial military complex, is doing this. They are the head of all of it. It's being performed by them. It makes it hard, and it makes it hard because I've approached pilots. I've approached people in the Air Force, and some of them are pretty damn... They just look right at me and tell me I'm crazy. You're crazy if you think that they're spraying. And it's hard to reach them. I just hope they wake up. I hope they understand that they're all part of this big, ugly machine that's creating this. And I have great respect for them. My father was in the Air Force back in the Korean War. And so my father was in the Air Force. He wasn't a pilot, but they were doing it back then. So it's all hidden from them. They're all compartmentalized. Most of them don't even know they're a big part of it. And, of course, most of these planes are probably flown by drones. These people are sitting in Vegas flying chemtrail planes. And it's tough, but, they're going to be forced to awaken soon. And there is a collapse. At some point in this thing, things are going to collapse. Civilization, the economy, it's all going to collapse. The food's going to stop moving. It's going to be horrible. It just has to happen.
Yeah, I've said this to people for a long time. The price we pay for not taking action is much, much smaller than the price we pay for taking action. And that's part of what I want to talk about tonight, is that thing inside of people that keep them from seeing the truth that is right in front of their eyes, that fear, that thing that blocks them. And how do we reach them, and how do we get them to become active? Because
a lot of these people it's part of this whole thing are either paid well to do what they do and to lie and continue this madness, or they're threatened to comply and not talk about things. And so,
right, and up on the screen right now. Yeah, absolutely. If you're looking at the video stream right now, you'll see that we've got a number of whistleblowers. We've got 5 of them up on the Global Skywatch website. We're going to be putting more soon. But we've got whistleblowers. We have scientists who've come out. We have celebrities who are coming out and talking against this. And I'm glad to see this. And we all talk about the day that the dam is going to break. But it's going to come by each one of us putting pressure on public officials and continuing to educate the public. So there's so many of us who know that we have the courage to call, to make phone calls, to demand answers, and to get legislation passed that exposes us to the public, because this is not legal by any stretch of the imagination. This is a crime like no other.
I've taken information to Trooper Post here, State Trooper Post. There's 17 of them that work at our local Kenai Peninsula State Trooper Post, and handed each and every one of them a flyer with information and websites that they can find out what's going on, and told them this is happening, and we're expecting you to just help us stop it, to be a part of the... So I've done that, and all of my state and local government, they've all been approached. And like you said earlier, we all need 100 calls instead of 1 call per day to each of these people, and let them know that this is what's happening, and by you not answering our calls, and by not doing anything, you'll be responsible at some point. I tell them all that. I tell all of them.
Well, not only that...
Go
ahead.
Local borough people, I let them know that if you don't speak out about this, you'll be held responsible at some point. Because there's too much evidence, and it's too obvious. There shouldn't be a debate on whether it's happening. It's just ridiculous.
Absolutely.
It's clearly happening, and everybody knows it when they see it. So
yeah,
it's quite powerful. Of course, these frequencies that they use, along with this stuff that we inhale constantly, is a form of mind control. They can control how we feel. And the sicker we are, the more we don't care. They really are making everyone sick. I smell it. I taste it just like you do. On certain days, certain spray days, it's even worse. So I have the same type of senses that you do.
Yeah, I have many people contact me. Go ahead, Helen.
I was just going to jump in and say it's kind of a bitter taste. My story is also on Russ's website. I think I'm the third one down under the personal chemtrail stories, and I became aware of this going on. It'll be 4 years coming up this upcoming spring, and I have never stopped. I've just been relentless with it down here, doing what I can. I mean, I don't own a business, but I carry the flyers with me. We had business cards made up down here, with several good websites with factual, valid information, and some of the videos on the back. I think we had Michael Murphy's films, What in the World, Why in the World Are They Spraying? A couple of others, that people, I've even got the GMO by Jeffrey Smith. What is that one called? Genetic Roulette, just to kind of wake people up about a variety of different topics, because, some people might key more in on the GMOs or, what have you, but it's all interconnected. And as the more you delve into these topics, you find out that, 9/11, GMOs, chemtrails, I mean, it's all connected. So any way that we can get people to pay attention and do some research. I, too, have contacted government officials, personally handed the governor of our state, Nathan Deal, almost 2 years ago, a package with Michael Murphy's, both of his DVDs, some of Dane Wigginton's Geoengineering Watch literature, also, one of our members in Congress for our district here. Unfortunately, I did not get any real response from them, but I actually had Rosalind Peterson help me put together a very professional cover letter with a request for formal action, and I handed them that package. And, like I said, or like we've been saying, one person going and doing this, it's easy for them to ignore, but if we start getting more and more people being vocal, if you've got time to stop by your offices there of your representatives, it's certainly beneficial to try to get a few people together and go in there with the credible information. I had a personal wake-up call, and of course I use that to tell people I've never looked back. I mean, I just will tell anybody that will listen to me. I've documented it heavily with photographs. I've probably got hundreds of photographs over the past few years of the ongoing damage to plants and trees around here, the pictures of the jets and the trails. So there's plenty of proof. I've done soil testing. I've done testing to the leaves and bark in the area, and virtually everything that I had tested back 3.5 years ago came back with very high amounts of aluminum. It also contained barium, strontium, and titanium, every single thing. So, this is real and this is happening, and,
It's real, all right. Let me get in real quick. One thing I wanted to say before I go. I got to go do some things, but people that are just waking up to this, somebody that's listening to this show or might hear this show in the near future and doesn't know this is happening or doesn't believe it, it's happening. Just like you said, it's truly happening, and we all need to understand that the main focus is we need to stop the spraying. I mean, there's other things that go along with the spraying, but without the spraying, those things don't work. The frequencies can't work without the particulates that they're spraying. It's screwing up everything, our whole planet, and people need to understand that we all need to work together. There's been some division, I've noticed. I've only been awake for 2 years. There's been some division and infighting within the community of us that are supposed to be fighting to stop the spraying, and it makes me so sad. It's so hard to see it, and there's a lot of that going on. Just people need to get past that and understand that this is real, and you can do, just by killing a few people a day or trying to get the word out, we can beat this thing. And don't let the infighting in this community of people that are supposed to be fighting this, don't let it distract you. Don't let it scare you away from this. You can do it on your own. We don't all need heroes in this fight, and I've had some. Since I woke up, there's some people in this fight, including Russ, Greg Palin, and Dane Wigington. These are my heroes, people that I've met, had dinner with, been to their houses. But there's always this infighting thing over the years in this, and I don't understand it, and I don't want to. I'm sick of it. We're all fighting for the same thing, and we all need to, we don't need to work together necessarily, but we all need to work on stopping the spraying and not work on bashing each other. So I appreciate everybody. Everybody that's awake is my family, and I'm so thankful for all of them. But I'm going to go watch my kids' hockey practice, and while we still have some ice. And I really appreciate you, Russ. I'm going to get going. And thanks for all you do. Keep the show going.
Hey, thanks for all you do. I'm so glad you called in. I'm so glad for all the work that you do. You've brought a voice of reason to that town. You've educated those people. You've had a huge impact, and that's just a testament to what anybody can do who has passion. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Yeah,
really.
Check out my video, folks. Check it out. Pass it on to your local pizza shop owner, and ask him if you can help him do what I'm doing. It's really simple and really cheap. And thank you to you, Helen, for calling in. I appreciate all you're doing.
Oh yeah, I've really, I've been aware of you for a while, and yeah, maybe one day we'll get a chance to meet. You're one of my heroes too.
Thank you, and Russ, you're my hero. Like I said, I'll meet you one day. Someday I'm going to come up to Maine and we'll meet.
I would love it.
You're the man that
one quick question
officially woke me up.
For Stephen. Before you go, Stephen, have you noticed any impacting on the wildlife with the drastic change in the climate up there in the Arctic?
We've got these, what are they called? It's a seabird. It's not a loon, but it's a murre, the common murres. In the last few weeks, they've been dropping into the inland areas and starving to death. Just in my town here in Nikiski, there were 3 of them sighted in the last couple of weeks. These are seabirds that belong at sea. They live at sea. Their whole life they live at sea. And now I heard on the radio today, a short news thing, that these common murres are being found all over south central Alaska, inland from the water. And they're landing way inland and starving to death. So something's really wrong there. We lost a lot of sea otters in Ketchimak Bay this year. And it's always the same thing. We don't know what's causing it. We don't know what's causing it. The ocean's dying. The Pacific Ocean is just about dead. And it's creeping up into here and affecting the birds, the fish, everything. Everything.
Yeah.
Our forest is devastated.
It's terrible.
Here. I've watched our forest just become devastated because of this. Our trees are all thinned out. The birch trees are really struggling. Every year it's worse. But even the big old spruce trees are all losing most of their needles. The only growth they really have on them is like the last year or two. And usually they hold a lot of their inner needles, and they're really thick and full and beautiful spruce trees, and now you can see right through them. They're ghosts.
Yes, we're seeing that here in the pines and even the deciduous trees. It's really,
my mother
scary.
lives in South Carolina, so I've been down there, and I see the destruction down there too. And I went to California. I saw it there too. I went down and went to Dane's presentation, one of Dane's presentations, and met some other activists, Corey Gunnels and Francis Mangles, and it's just, I had to go down there and meet these people. And we all, a lot of people that don't want to jump into this need somebody to talk to. So make the step to, if somebody approaches you and you've been unsure about whether you want to accept this, and it helps to have some friends to talk to. Just like you, Helen, and just like you, Russ. You guys, without you, I don't know if I'd keep going. You're part of the group that keeps us.
I totally agree.
Try and, if you're just waking up, find somebody that knows about this. Get active with them, and it's a rush. It's a rush waking people up.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel good. I mean, honestly, after you kind of get through the shock and the disbelief and the grief and all of that, then you just kind of find a way to maintain and say, okay, I'm not going to let this ruin my life. I'm going to try and live as close to a normal life that I'm going to maintain and enjoy my friends and try and, enjoy what's left of nature and my family. And just like you going to, hang out with your kids playing hockey and stuff. We can't give up our lives and our love and our joy, but I've incorporated this also into my life, and I'm caring for an elderly parent, and recently was involved with people in the hospitals and the medical field in a nursing rehab center, and I'm handing out information to these people and trying to wake up the medical community. Also made copies of Dr. Marvin Herndon's paper that he published in the International Journal of Environmental and Public Health last August. And I went ahead and made some hard copies of that. And it's about a 16-page paper, but I just, to the appropriate people that could take that in, I hand out that. If people, I've handed it to my veterinarians, I've handed it to some of these medical people, and it's amazing how many people really are hungry for the knowledge. You'll either hit on people that think you're nuts, or there are people that just soak the information up like a sponge and take off with it themselves.
Yeah, every once in a while, not very often, but somebody will come into the restaurant that I don't know, maybe from out of town, and they'll see what I'm doing, and they'll say, who's the owner, who's doing this, and they'll thank me. It doesn't happen very often, but man, does that make my day when I meet somebody that says, wow, I'm so glad you're doing this. Because you can't go into my restaurant without finding out the truth. I mean, at least being scared out of your mind. If you don't know anything about it, you're going to walk in and go, holy cow, this is really happening, I guess. I've got all kinds of pictures and patents and, articles all over the walls. It's a barrage. And I don't want people to think that this will ruin your business. I mean, my business is good because we make great pizza. It's just awesome. We got a great place. But it hasn't hurt my business. I won't let it hurt my business. And people actually come to me and say, aren't you scared that you're going to, the only thing that scares me is they might kill me, But that doesn't really scare me.
Well, they're already killing us. That's the way I look at it.
I'm not going to go down on my knees. I'm going to be on my feet when they take me out. So, but people ask me if I'm worried about hurting my business by doing this, and no way. Why would I do that? I have two children. I have an 11-year-old and a 10-year-old son. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm waking people up. Back when I first really woke up to this 2 years ago, I asked God what I should do. And I heard an audible voice tell me to expose the darkness to the light. And I'm in. I'm in till the end, until my last breath. And I'm going to get going now, but thank you for all you guys are doing. And I'm so glad you're back on the air, Russ.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing. And honestly, when we hear the stories about what you're doing, it gives us courage. And it gives us the inspiration to do it as well, and it reminds us that each one of us can make a tremendous difference. You're affecting that whole town. So thank you for what you do, and we'll meet one day, and thank you.
We will. Thanks, guys.
Okay. All right, take care. Helen, you still with us?
I am.
Yeah. So what else is going on? Any other new developments you can share with us?
Oh, gosh, well, not anything other than I've just been sharing. Of course, I've been a little more close to home, but I try every single day, whoever I can wake up to this, I give them paperwork and tell them what happened to me. I actually sent some of the photographs and my initial information and a synopsis out to one of the attorneys that's working on that case out in California. I'm not sure if they can use it, but I certainly had said this from the very beginning. If that would help them with their arsenal of evidence, they're more than welcome to it, and so I feel very good about that. And just trying to wake people up, and actually it becomes in a way enjoyable. You make new friends. You connect with people that also see what's going on, and we don't have a tremendously cohesive group. I would like to see, if anybody's listening from Georgia, still hope to connect with people that we have a lot, people, well, a few people that are working in earnest, but if we could get enough people together that could go to some of these offices of our elected officials and, keep putting the pressure on them, as you said.
Absolutely. And one thing that I'd like to suggest to people that I mentioned a minute ago, but, I know for most people you have a passion and you want to do something and you want to maybe begin by reaching out to your public officials because they are being sprayed too. This is if we're going to look on the bright side of this, if there is a bright side, the bright side of this is we're all on the same side. Except for those doing the spraying, we're all having our lifespan shortened by the dramatic increase of particulates in the air. We are all suffering one way or the other and having our bodies slowly destroyed, eaten away, or in my case, and many, many, many people who've contacted me, having chronic inflammation, sleep issues, and all kinds of stuff that I have to spend money on, herbs and supplements to keep me going every single day of my life for the past 10 years. So we're all on the same side. I would love to see groups of people call public officials, and if you're nervous about doing it yourself, let's take this idea and do something with it. Let's have a Skype or a Zoom or a group that can use this call-in number. Get together, and you can call in this number and have one spokesperson call and talk to your local public official. Or you can talk together, but do it as a group so that you have the courage and you get experience without you just being there alone having to face somebody saying, oh, no, those are just contrails, because a lot of times that is what they'll tell you. So there's an idea for you. If people can get together and make these phone calls in a group, and it's so easy to do today. And contact me, Russ@globalskywatch.com. If you want to meet up with other people, I'll work on making it happen. It's easy to do. Now, we've got your video up right now, Helen. It's showing your aluminum lab tests. I mean, this was from a while ago, but you had 4,630 parts per million in manure test, deep soil, shallow soil, water, all kinds of tests. Can you remind us a little bit about the tests that you did and what your results showed?
Well, yes, and then here recently I actually wanted to do a comparison, and I thought, well, it's been 3 years, let me test a few more things, and so I used the same lab, and I guess it was late summer. It seems like it was, I don't have all this paperwork in front of me, but it seems like I sent it out about August, and there was a delay of about 2 to 3 weeks before I got the results back. And I remember thinking, wow, I mean, I sent that off. How come I haven't, heard anything from them? And then I called, and the girl said, oh, well, we had to send off, because I did kind of like a broad-spectrum heavy metals panel after Dr. Marvin Herndon's paper, which draws the conclusion of the coal fly ash being used potentially as a base material. And so I thought, well, let me see about testing for mercury and arsenic and maybe a couple of radioactive agents, thorium or thallium, which are can be, as I understand it, the rainwater. And when the coal fly ash is mixed with water, it makes it much, much more potent and dangerous. And so I sent that off, and believe it or not, they sent back completely different results than I received about 3 years, 2.5, 3 years prior. virtually everything came back below detection level, which I thought was extremely suspicious because I haven't done any heavy metals cleanup, and as far as I know, I'm not a chemist or anything, but I am not aware that heavy metals such as aluminum and barium can just evaporate from the soil.
Right. So this is showing us there might be something
bacteria.
very fishy going on with these labs. We've heard this from other people, that there is some evidence that labs are being purchased or taken over or managed by people who are covering up important test results like this.
In fact, here I found it. The date they received it on August 21st. The date that it was processed, it wasn't processed until September 11th, which that would have been roughly 3 weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
More than about 3 weeks or more later. And the only thing that they found, and I had pasture weeds, I had some hoof trimmings, some cherry tomatoes, a garden tomato, some leaves, both pasture soil and garden soil tested. And we looked for barium, mercury, arsenic, strontium, thorium, thallium, and aluminum. I paid a pretty good little bit out of pocket to do all this. And the only thing they found, virtually everything came back BDL, which stands for below detection level, except for the garden soil. They found 0.05 worth of arsenic and 0.01 of arsenic in the pasture soil, and then they found it in the leaves, 0.01 arsenic. So that was the only thing that showed up in that test result out of all of those samples and all of those metals. And I find that completely to fly in the face of any kind of common sense. And I am certainly not a chemist, but I am also not stupid. So
yeah, I agree
had
with you. Yeah.
a couple samples. I couldn't afford to do another entire panel, but I spoke with another one of our activists out in California who agreed to send a couple samples to a lab out there that he uses. And I actually just did get the results back in from that. And the results on that, of course, I couldn't afford to do another huge panel like that of everything, but we just looked for the barium and the aluminum, since those are the most prevalent. And we did pasture soil, and we did some cherry tomatoes in a water medium. And the aluminum came back 160,000 micrograms per liter, I think it is.
Wow.
Is that small UG/L?
Yep, micrograms
I'm pretty sure
per
that
liter.
that's the explanation. And there was 740 micrograms per liter in barium. And these were pretty much identical samples. I did, they weren't from the same batch, but I went out to the exact same locations and collected them a couple months later, maybe. And
so something's going on with that first
same
lab. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So, this is good. Maybe I can get these results sent to you or something, and that might be an interesting thing to post as well.
Absolutely. Anybody who has results of tests are welcome to send them to Russ at globalskywatch.com. I'll be happy to post them for you, or you can just go to our website. If you want to, you can just go here. Let me show those who are watching the stream. Just go to globalskywatch.com, and up here we have view and post test results right here. You can click here, and you'll be able to see the test results in post: drinking water, rainwater, snow, blood, dust, and other tests if you like. So, yeah, Yeah, I really appreciate that feedback, Helen. I'm showing your video on the video stream right now of some of the things you found. Your horses have had issues. You did tests in the bark of trees. All these you've done a lot of tests, much more than most people do over time, over the years, and you've really found some amazing things. 160,000 micrograms per liter of aluminum in a tomato, you said.
No, let me look. That was in the soil.
Oh, in the soil, okay.
Oh, let's see. Yeah,
okay.
Aluminum, hold on, yeah, in the soil.
Okay.
Yeah, the soil. Barium was 740 small ug/L.
Gotcha.
And then,
okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Well, I know for
So,
me...
yeah, anyway, I'm...
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Helen. Go ahead.
So anyway, I fortunately had not paid the lab in full for the first tests, which, of course, they didn't even come up with any barium or aluminum. They show that as below detection level. So there's, quite a conflict there, and I've written them a letter saying that, I'm not, there seems, until we can get this rectified, it appears your tests may have been flawed or, somehow, improperly run, or that I'm not going to pay you anything more until, we get this rectified. So I haven't heard back from them as of yet.
Now, a strange thing is, on the other tests you had done, did you have any long delay like you had in this other test? Because you said there was like a 2 or 3 week delay before they actually did the test once they received it, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's certainly not that long. I mean, it might have been a week or something like that, maybe 10 days. But, it was really excessively long to the point where I thought, well, geez, what is going on? Did they lose my samples? What's happening here? So, yeah, I think that there's something very strange going on, and I wondered that too. I felt like calling and asking them, did your lab recently get purchased and bought out by someone else, or, what happened here? Because they were, pretty forthright when I contacted them 3 years ago. In fact, at that time, the girl that I spoke with said, oh, well, we hardly ever have anybody ask us to test for aluminum and barium and for this. So apparently maybe they're getting more people, that are asking for the testing. I didn't really...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could be. I mean, I noticed in the mid-2000s we started, or later 2000s, we started doing a few lab tests ourselves. And it was funny because between the first and second set of tests that I did for a different experiment we were working on, the lab got purchased by a completely different group of people. And it was funny because the first group of people who originally owned the lab were wonderful, warm, helpful, very friendly to work with. And the second time contacted the same lab, same type of tests, everything was going to be the same. Grumpy, frumpy, didn't want to talk to you, weren't willing to work with us, gave us no quantity discounts, just a whole different attitude. I'm like, wow, that has really changed in the past year. So, and they were under new ownership, so it was like, well, that's interesting.
Well, that may be a question, if when they contact me, or if they, I don't know whether they'll respond or not, but I wrote them a very professional and polite letter just saying, I'm going to withhold any further payment until we determine if your results were flawed or inaccurate in any way, and I gave them copies of the test results that I received from the California lab, and I said I'm enclosing copies of, all results for your review, so it should be interesting to see what they get back with me with.
Yeah. Well, keep me posted on that. I'd like to hear, too, please.
Well, I sure will, and I guess I'll have to jump off here, too. It's getting late. I better go do an elderly senior check again, and sure, I'm glad to have your call back online. You are always such a source of wonderful knowledge and inspiration, and you can bet I'll be a regular every Monday that I can be.
Thank you. Please Please do. Thank you for all the work you're doing. Thank you for all the tests. Thank you for all the support. Just having you here is wonderful, and I appreciate talking to you all the time. So thanks, Helen. Thank you for all you do.
Okay, well, we'll be in touch again then, Russ, and everybody on the line, have a good night, and just keep going, everybody. We can do this.
Yes, everybody keep going. We can do this. Thank you, Helen. Well, we're going to go on probably for another 15, 20 minutes or so. I know there are a couple more people on the call. I'm going to try to be consistent with having this show on every Monday if I can. I have a very busy life. I support myself. I work more than most people do. So it's tough, but this is very important to me. So we're going to try to be here. And I want to let you know that we are going to be sharing information in the future, in the very near future, coming up shows. We're going to get deep into this. Who are the people who are doing this? What do they believe? What is their religious beliefs? What are their spiritual beliefs? This is the stuff that I really like getting into. We're going to get into their heads. We're going to get into their hearts, and we're going to find out who they are and what they believe. And once you understand this, once you see the big picture, none of this surprises you anymore. I'm not saying it's good. It's not good. But when you understand it, you're not surprised anymore. We've got a couple more people still on the phone lines who called in. We've got about 15 more minutes before we end our call. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak up? Hello, hello. Anyone there would like to call, that is called into the console would like to speak up?
Hi, it's Kim from Maine.
Hello, Kim. Good to hear from you. How are you doing?
We're doing pretty good. We're freezing to death right now, as you probably are as well.
4 degrees. I'm up here north of you just a little ways, and it's 4 degrees up here in Bangor, Maine. 4 degrees outside. Bitter cold.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. So what's going on? Any updates for us? Kim, well, I'll let you introduce yourself. Why don't you tell everybody who you are and tell us what's going on?
Yes, I'm Kim. I live in southern Maine, and I work in the group Global Skywatch. Been with that group for a few years now, and I help a few friends out that started at Global Skywatch Facebook group, and they now have their own groups, and I'm a field activist. I go to every protest that I can. I stay on top of any event that's going on, whether it's marching with anons or marching against Monsanto and genetically modified foods, supporting our local organic farmers. I try to network with as many people as I can. I'm trying to get as many people rallied up here in the state that I live in, but I spend a little bit of time online as well, working with people from all over the world, trying to encourage them and get them motivated and, find their thing that motivates them and drives them and try to encourage them to keep going. And one thing I'm finding in my area is increased urgency for activism and awareness, but we're also finding increase in health issues. Starting back in end of November, we were seeing a lot of people getting sick, a lot of upper respiratory illnesses. The intensity of the spraying was so blatant and so obvious that, I would be standing there, possibly maybe be outside walking my dogs, and, 6 or 7 planes all go over at once, and I just will stand there and point and look at that and say, what the hell is that supposed to be? To a total stranger. And then I'm finding some more people are waking up, but I'm also seeing a lot of the activism that was excited and was doing okay is starting to diminish because people's health is starting to fail. Well, right now I'm having a difficult time even speaking, and that's because I had an upper respiratory issue for 3 steady weeks. It kind of lingered off a little bit for the 4th week and kicked back in the 5th week. And I'm directly relating it to, I feel, my reaction to the chemical fallout from what I'm observing in the sky. I don't know if I can, honestly, I don't know if I can taste it or smell it. If I am, I'm not able to differentiate. But I can tell you There are so many people that are so sick. Their skin is dried out. Their hair is dried out. Their hair is breaking, falling off. Their skin is looking like they're elderly when they're not. Fingernails are snapping off. Animals are shedding like wildfire. People are showing symptoms of vitamin D deficiency from lack of sun. I can honestly say we went 14 straight days with no sun at all whatsoever. And part of what I do is I try to get activism about geoengineering, weather modification. But I'm also an outdoor person, so it's tough because I need to be outside and doing the things that I do, but then the more I'm outside, the sicker that I am. So I'm finding a huge challenge in wanting to be a field activist, but seeing my health as being affected. So the only thing I can do at this point, guys, is I'm monitoring satellite images. I'm watching the weather, literally, from being out there and looking right at it, plus working with Global Skywatch Facebook group. Like Russ was saying earlier, we've got well over 40,000 people. And so people are sharing their pictures and their photographs, and they're making their comments. And we've got a few folks that, they can hook into, weather information and literally show us, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're hearing, and we're trying to match it all together. And just wherever you're finding yourself weak, try to look for some other resources or find someone that is able to look up information for you or answer your questions or somehow participate, because honestly, if we don't really push to inform people about this any way you can, we're going to be sick enough that we can't go out or do anything or say anything. And I'm speaking through a voice where I can barely, by 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, I can't even talk anymore. And I don't have any allergies. I'm not ill. My immune system is okay. I eat wonderfully. I don't do drugs or smoke or consume anything really in excess. It's just I'm outdoors a lot, and I'm sucking in toxic, disgusting air, and I feel like that is the largest contribution to health effects for myself. But when you go anywhere and everyone is literally sneezing and coughing, and it goes on for weeks at a time, something's wrong. And I just feel right now that I want to share with you guys just a stronger sense of urgency in that if you're feeling well and you're doing okay, please fight for the rest of us that are sick or are more strongly affected by what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel it all the time. I can smell this in the air 24/7. For the first 4 years that they started spraying in our area, between the plumes that would descend on us, I wouldn't smell anything. But when the plumes hit us, it was overwhelming. And in fact, I moved out of that area in Jamestown, New York, because they sprayed so hard. My health declined so far. I moved out of that area for that specific reason. After 2009, the air was never clear. It was never constantly clear. Even between the plumes, there was still background levels. Now the air is still goes up and down as the plumes come down upon us and descend on us. The intensity of the chemicals and the metals in the air still goes up and down, but it is there is always a background level there constantly. It never goes away. And there are different types. For those of you who are new to joining us, there are many different types. I wrote an article about the 10 different types of chemtrails. They have different odors, different tastes. They have different health effects. I see the effects on other people. It doesn't matter if you can smell them or not. It still affects your health. And I could go on and on. In fact, in future shows, we're going to really focus on these subjects and get into that. So every Monday night here at globalskywatch.com/live, I hope you join us. And you do help with, you more than help, you pretty much help run the Global Skywatch Facebook group. And so anyone who wants to see Kim or I or talk to us there, you're welcome to come to our Facebook group. So anything else you want to say? Go ahead and tell us anything else, Kim. We'll probably go on for about another 5 or 10 minutes and then call it a night. And let this be our introduction to 2014. And then just keep in mind, everyone, that we're going to really start getting into deep stuff. What goes on in those people's minds? Why do they do what they do? What do they actually believe that would make them do something that kills so many people, induces heart attacks, strokes, aneurysms, causes cancer? Why does the FDA allow amalgam fillings to continue, or when in other countries they've been outlawed? Why is the United States under such assault and such regulatory negligence? And it's not negligence, in my opinion. It's absolutely on purpose. Why? We're going to get into that, and you're going to understand how the world really works. We are under a huge delusion in the way that things work in the world today, because for the same reason that in this textbook, if you look at your live feed, let me see if I can pull this up again. Well, I was there just a minute ago, but I was showing textbooks that have disinformation for children. And we grew up with textbooks that also had disinformation. And we have to realize that some of the things we grew up believing as truth were completely lies, and that this was a coordinated effort for us to misunderstand the world we live in. And now we're headed for a very dangerous future because of the internet and the communication that is taking place between people. Those industrialists who have taken over the countries of the world are now having to resort to extreme violence, to war, in order to maintain their control. And that's what we're seeing happen, and that's why there is going to be a very rapid escalation of things going on, a very fast movement towards war with Russia and China, which I was telling people about 25 years ago, because this stuff was scripted long in advance. As people became more and more educated, the need for these kinds of things and this information just escalated. So we're going to learn about that. Kim, go ahead. Anything else you want to share with us?
I think people really want to try to stay in touch, and there's a couple ways they can do that. If they can't do Facebook, of course they can go to the Global Skywatch forum and just search through the subjects and see what they want to get involved with. But if you are on Global Skywatch, if you're already a Facebook member, the group is growing so fast that I want to let people know if they see stuff getting a little bit quirky and a little bit strange, try not to get frustrated. There are ways that you can report the post directly to the administrators. We have an awesome team, people that just work all different time zones, and we work together. We try to stay consistent, and we love our members truly with all our hearts. Every single person that I work with, I absolutely adore. Just do the best you can. If something looks strange, report it. If you feel like it's urgent and it's not getting resolved and you can't reach anybody, private message me anytime. I check, my private messages pretty much 24/7. The computer's on whenever I'm home. Also, we have Skype available for people that want to reach out to us. You can always email Russ at his Global Skywatch, his admin, globalskywatch.com, and try to make some connections if you feel like you want to get a little bit more action happening in your community, and if you're not into Facebook, or if you want a different outreach plan. I participate every Wednesday at 9 o'clock with Flush the TTP. There's an environmental impact involved with the TTP and the fight that we have against that. So if you want to email me or contact me through Facebook, please somehow send a message to me through this chat, or go to your Facebook and send a message, and we can try to get a little bit of networking done. And stay strong. If you're hurting right now, I'm hurting a little bit right now, trying to overcome the upper respiratory issues that are happening. But there's so many ways that people can connect. If you really want to, get a hold of Russ or get a hold of me, and just hang in there, and please don't forget, it's worth the fight. If you're feeling a little down, a little weak, you'll be a lot weaker if you don't try. So even when I'm feeling a little bit kicked down, I still feel like I still want to continue to try.
Yes.
So it's been a blessing to get to know you guys, and thanks for, getting back on and sharing everything you all have said. I miss talking to you, Russ, and Helen, and Steve from Alaska, and John, and Mike and Dan. I'm glad you guys all made it. Hit me up on Facebook or jump in the Global Skywatch forum somewhere. Find me on there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kim. Thank you. And yes, anybody who wants to come to the Chemtrails Global Skywatch group, we have 48,000 members plus right now. And understand we just have a handful of administrators who try to keep an eye on the group. If you see anything happen that is improper, just report it. There's a little downward pointing arrow in the upper right corner. Click on that, and there's a link that says report, and that will notify the administrators that something's wrong. And the first administrator to hop on will take care of it as soon as possible. But it's all volunteer. It's all out of the work that we do. The websites that I run is all out of my pocket. I do not profit from this. I lose money doing this. I lose valuable time. I could be working on my business and programming right now. That's what I normally would be doing at 10:30 on a Monday night. I do computer programming and website work, and that's what I'm not doing right now in order to sit here on the microphone and talk about this. But thank you so much for everything you do, Kim. Kim has been tireless, endlessly working to keep everything running. It couldn't have worked without her and without our other administrators and moderators in the group. That I'd like to have them all on one night if they want to talk, chat, and we'll talk about the operation of the Facebook group and invite more people. But I'll tell you what, it's 10:30 here on the East Coast. I'm feeling not great myself. Spraying last night kept me awake, so I didn't get good sleep, and I didn't get enough sleep. They've been hitting us for the last 3 days with the swamp water type chemtrail, which is the type that makes everybody get sore throats and flus and colds. They're always correlate together, and I'm going to talk about the types in the future. And I'm glad to see that, like Kim said, I'm very glad to see the gangs all here. It's so nice to see everybody here from last year. We're all back together here, and I want to see us come back, and I want to see 5,000 or 10,000 people listening to this show 6 months from now. And we will have more hard-hitting information. Tonight was just a gentle introduction to 2016. Many things are going to happen in the future, and I'm going to whet your appetite for a minute here. The people who are doing this to us have some very exotic and strange beliefs. And for newcomers, this may sound really far out, but for those who have done some research, realize that for people to be spraying the population with known poisons that cause heart attacks and strokes and other potentially fatal ailments, something has to be really wrong in their minds. And these people actually believe that they're fully entitled to be doing what they're doing. They believe they're doing what has been given to them as their responsibility and their duty and their gift. This is what these people believe. And we're going to get in their heads starting next week. You're going to understand why the textbooks have come out indoctrinating the children at the same time. You're going to understand why high bypass turbofan engines, which are used on all large jets today, do not produce trails. The disinformants would say, look, it's like as if you exhale on a cold day and you have steam coming out of your breath. It's the same thing. No, it's not. The ratio of air to moisture in a high bypass turbofan is so much lower. It has no comparison to the amount of moisture that's in your breath. There is no comparison whatsoever. Furthermore, you have to understand things. We're going to get into details about helicopters, which also use turbine. Jet turbine engine is the power plant. That is the engine that drives a helicopter and a high bypass turbofan. It's driven by the same fuel, by the same process. The engine, as far as the spinning of the axial center, is the same. The design is virtually the same in terms of the core, the power plant of the engine. Why don't helicopters produce condensation trails? Because the amount of water vapor in the exhaust is far too small, and we're going to explore that. We're also going to get into lies. I want to tell you something. I hate and detest lies. I have suffered most of my life with mercury poisoning from amalgam fillings, which are outlawed in many countries around the world because they're poison, toxic, dangerous, disease-causing. But in the United States, they're still legal because the regulatory agencies are completely controlled by the industries they're supposed to be regulating. This is how the world really works, and it's really hard for newcomers to grasp this, but you have to understand that the nightly news is also controlled by the same industrialists that control the governments, the regulatory agencies, and the news. You have to come to alternative news sources. And I personally don't care where you go. I would love for you to go to your favorite place for good alternative news. Hopefully you're getting it from a range of different places. But you're going to hear the real news from alternative sources. We're going to have an escalation in 2016. We're headed towards World War III. China and Russia are going to be against the United States. This was foretold decades ago. Albert Pike, in a letter, talked about what this world war would entail, and we're seeing it shape up exactly like it was foretold. Albert Pike is the person who designed the 33 ceremonies that take place in the Masonic Lodge. He's in many ways considered the father of the modern Masonic Lodge and the designer of all those ceremonies. We're going to talk about him. Why did he do what he does? Why did he say what he says? Why did he talk about, and this is where it gets far-fetched, but I'm not making this up, this is right from their own literature, the seething powers of Lucifer will be in your hands. This was a writing that Albert Pike made when he was explaining what this was all about. Why all this talk about Lucifer? Let me throw some other things away, your appetite. The Catholic Church. I'm not bashing Catholics. I know many good Catholic people. They try to do the right thing, just like we all do, just like I do. But the church is an organization. In Bangor, Maine here, the radio station for the Catholic Church is called The Presence. If you listen to their broadcast, they say, we're EWTN or whatever, The Presence. That is their logo. That is their motto. The phrase The Presence is a reference in the occult, the dark occult arts, to Lucifer. I am not making this up, and we will show this to you in a future episode. These people actually are, in a very hidden way, the people who design these things are lying to the public and misrepresenting the truth. There's Bible scripture that actually, where Christ himself actually says, many, during the end of the age, or as we approach the end of the age, many will come in my name, saying, here is the Christ, and there is the Christ. Do not be deceived. This is something that the Bible tells us. And do you know that the Maitreya claims to be the Christ? Who is Maitreya? Go to Share International. It's a website supported by the United Nations. And the Maitreya is the Christ figure, claiming to be Christ, claiming to be a great, powerful teacher who has performed supposed miracles. And as Scripture says, that there will be false signs and wonders done before the people that will cause the people to believe the lie. What is the lie? What is the core of the lie that is going on before us? Why is there going to be so much violence in the Middle East? Why are we going into World War III? How did the industrialists of the world take over? How did they take over all of the countries of the world? Also, we're going to talk about Revelation 18:23, which says, the great merchants of the earth deceived the people of the world by their sorcery. Look it up yourself. This is Revelation 18:23. What the verse actually is referring to is the methodology that would be used to deceive the people of the nation shortly before the second return of the Messiah. And that is this: the great merchants of the earth. That's the first part of the phrase. Let's tear that apart. Great in that sentence does not mean good, it means powerful. Merchants means industrialists, wholesalers, manufacturers. The word in Strong's Concordance says traders or wholesalers. Wholesalers are people who resell, and traders are those who either manufacture or distribute. And these are the most powerful entities in the business world today, are those who manufacture and distribute. So let's analyze the first part of that of Revelation 18:23. The great merchants, that means the powerful wholesalers, merchants, manufacturers, the great merchants of the world deceived the people. And this is talking about the entire world. This is not a localized deception. This is not deceiving just the children. This is a deception that is upon the entire planet, which we are in right now, and it is spreading right now at a rate that is unmatched in history. You are living through it. You are living through it, and it is happening right now, and we're going to talk about this. The great merchants of the world deceived the people by, here it comes, how did they deceive the people of the world? By their sorcery. What is sorcery? If you look that up in the original language, it is the Greek word pharmakia. It is the word today where we get our word pharmaceutical. The word pharmakia means to drug or poison. In Revelation 18:23, you actually have the key to how the industrialist, banker, merchant, wholesalers, the industrialists of the world are going to deceive the world and sell them the lie by dumbing them down, by drugging them and poisoning them. So whether or not you believe that Scripture is true or not, if you hang around and you have the guts to listen to something, do not listen to the propaganda that's going on all over the internet. People are slandering things that should not be slandered, and they're glorifying things that should not be glorified. You need to listen to this because this is happening now. You're going to live through it. And ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is death. And you do not want to be ignorant about what's going on. So the great merchants of the earth deceive the people by drugging and poisoning. That's why, because I've studied this stuff years in advance, I want to tell you the truth. And I've only said this on a few radio talk shows that I've done before, is that when chemtrails began, when I found out about them in November 2005, when I lived in Jamestown, New York, I said, aha, that's how they're going to do it. I was already familiar with this verse. I knew there would be mass drugging and poisoning, but more people were getting away from GMOs, more people were getting away from fluoride, more people were getting away from drugs. There was a slow movement in the world to get back to basics, to get back to purity, back to health. So I wondered how they're going to do it. And the day that I learned about chemtrails, the day that I smelled them and tasted them, and I had a horrible physical reaction to them, I looked in the sky. I knew finally, because I was already familiar with Revelation 18:23, and I said, oh, that's how they're going to do it. They're going to put it in the air. That way, everybody is subject to it. We have a rainwater test with 600 micrograms per liter of aluminum here in Bangor, Maine. That's 6 times higher than is allowed by the EPA in drinking water. And that's just one test. Also found mercury and lead and other toxins in dust tests that we have done here as well. We have bats dying from white nose syndrome, and on and on. We're going to also learn why the year 2017 and 2019 are extremely pivotal years for the religion of the industrialists. I haven't gone into this in great detail before, but I'm going to take time and put it into words and show you the research that I've found that I see very few other talk shows getting into and talking about. They just don't. There are a few people out there who really get into this, and I really appreciate what they do, but it's pivotal that you know, because if you don't understand what's going on inside these people's heads, then you're going to take the lies that they give you, and believe me, the lie they are feeding you is compelling. But when you understand what's behind it, you will be immune to the lies that are being fed. But you have to understand. And what's real pivotal here is 2017 and 2019 are pivotal years in their literature. In the high-level occultist literature, these are pivotal years. And that's why you're going to see a huge increase in intensity in what these high-level Luciferians are doing to this world. This is not a joke. There is plenty of warning about this throughout history that we would come upon this time, and you're going to live through it. Like it or not, whether you believe you want to be here or not, we're all going through this together. And so the less ignorance we have, the better off we're going to be, the more understanding we're going to have with each other. We're also going to cover a lot of articles that have come out recently. We have an article here entitled Airplane Contrails May Be Creating Accidental Geoengineering. Really, this is just another attempt to convince the world that the spraying of particulates in the atmosphere is not happening. Of course, that's a lie because it is happening. We're going to talk about Bill Gates. We're going to talk about, there have been several Illuminati members who have actually come out and become whistleblowers. John Todd was one of them. We're going to talk about John Todd and the predictions he told us, and everything he has said has come true. But I bet you probably most people who are listening right now have never heard of John Todd. But he was one of the most notorious whistleblowers from an Illuminati family. He was involved in it for years, came out for about a year, and then disappeared, and nobody's ever seen or heard from him again. Everything he said has come true. And you don't hear about him very much, and I'm going to talk about him. And we're going to talk about some of the others as well. There's several others who have come out, and when you listen carefully to what they say, you can understand what's really going on in the world. These people are very helpful. You're going to learn about a television show. If any of you out there watch the Sci-Fi Channel, anybody watch the Sci-Fi Channel? You're going to see a program, and I challenge you if you want to watch it. And again, this is all just part of education. I'm not saying I support any of this. I'm not saying I like it because I don't like what's going on at all. But this helps you to understand the movement that is going on in the world. There is a story, a book written by Arthur C. Clarke called Childhood's End. They have made a miniseries out of this, and it plays on the Sci-Fi Channel. Childhood's End is about aliens. Now listen closely. Aliens that come to Earth, and what do? They bring healing and knowledge that saves humanity from themselves. The interesting thing about it is, what do these beings look like? And I will save that for a future show, but if you want to look up Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke, look at the Sci-Fi Channel, and you will be shocked because virtually everything you see on TV, if it doesn't contain simple propaganda, it contains dark occult indoctrination, including that story. And it's shocking, absolutely shocking, when you understand what's going on in the world and you see it blatantly in front of your face. All right, I'm going to end the show for tonight. Those are some of the things we're going to talk about in the future. Forgive me for misspeaking and being very tired tonight. Once again, because of the intense, it wasn't super intense last night, but it was enough to keep me from getting a good deep night's sleep. I'm exhausted, very, very tired. But thank you for joining me tonight. Please, if you wonder what all these things have to do, I normally wouldn't go this deep into these subjects, but I feel a conviction inside myself to really talk about these things honestly and openly, the things that I've uncovered in my own research and the pieces I put together, because very few people are talking about them. There are people like Steve Quayle and Tom Horn, if you've heard of them. Those are two of the people I know who are actually talking about, but I don't know of anyone else off the top of my head who are talking about these kinds of things, and they need to be talked about. So the reason we get into this so deeply is because in order for you to really understand what's going on in the world, including why are they spraying, you really need to understand what's going on in these people's heads. And that's part of what I aim to do. And I may not have gone this far into it, except that so many people contacted me and said, please, we want to hear this, we want to know this. And that helped me to make the decision to go ahead and follow through and do this. So thank you to those who let me know that they wanted to hear it, because that was very encouraging to me when I doubted whether or not anybody really cared enough to know. So I will share what I've learned in the pieces I put together. Whether we're talking to 5 people or 50,000, hopefully people will get something from it. There's so much happening in the world today. You are living in a time like no other, and it's going to get super intense as we approach 2019 and even as we pass through 2017, because these are pivotal years for them. You're also going to learn what is the meaning of the 5-pointed star. What is the meaning of the 6-pointed star? Why do you see the 5-pointed star at the top of the so-called mermaid at Starbucks? Why do you see the 5-pointed star on the U.S. flag? What does that have to do with chemtrails? You understand the big picture. It has everything to do with it, because the people who put those stars there are the people who are spraying us, and they did it all for a reason, and it's not good, and it is not for your benefit. But we're going to get into that stuff in 2016 starting next week. We're going to get intense, get deep, and give you a lot of intense information compacted into as relatively short shows as we can. I'm exhausted. I'm going to go ahead and call it an end. Thank you for joining me tonight. Please visit globalskywatch.com and share it with all of your friends. Put a badge on your website. You can put a graphic and a link to our website. We have what are called badges there, so you can help share our website with others. Also, go to Orbis Vitae. That's our sister website that deals with all other subjects besides chemtrails. It's ORB, like boy, ISVITAE.com. It's Latin for Circle of Life. Go there. We have a lot of information there, from fracking, GMOs, 9/11 vaccines, amalgam fillings, all kinds of information, and people there that can help you to learn and understand, and that you can share with them as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. You all have a good night, and please join us next week, and bring your friends to join us next week so we can share more information and get really deep about what is going on in the world, so those who want to understand can truly understand. Please understand that there's a lot. If you're on Facebook and you're seeing all of this information passing you by about religions and Putin, a lot of disinformation saying Putin is a good guy, he's going to come save the world. Look, I've known for 25 years that they were going to market the leader of Russia as the savior, not the savior of the world, let me speak accurately, but they were going to market him as being someone who's going to fight against the New World Order, and that marketing, that disinformation is being spread. He is as much part of the Illuminist New World Order as anyone else is. Don't be fooled by that. There's a lot of disinformation. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I see disinformation about the Bible. I see disinformation about all kinds of things going on. Don't just believe it without doing research, because even though they might have a nice meme there that has all kinds of compelling information on the graphic, it doesn't mean it's true. You have to look behind the scenes, and that's what we're going to do. Everybody have a good night. We'll see you next week, Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, globalskywatch.com/live. On Facebook, Chemtrails, Global Skywatch. We'll see you there. Good night, everybody.
You're up.